Hello, relatives. Haumatakiapi. Good afternoon. Wichoka Yawashte. I'm going to do a reading out of the Meditation with the Native American Elders book this morning or this afternoon. I got them a little bit mixed up because I was up super early and then I took a nap and now I'm back up. I also want to acknowledge that I have many relatives. I'm going to refer to everybody as relatives because when you do things like this and you offer and you ask, this is sage, by the way, and you ask the relatives to help us, like relatives from the plant nations, when they come and they help us, it's always good to make sure that we talk in a way that is like that kinship, that is like that relatives. And so I will always refer to people as relatives when we do these type of things, and then I try and make sure that I do that outside of like videos and circles, talking circles and such like that. I'm going to see if I can adjust my camera without messing it up. And so that's what we will refer to you as. And the reason why I bring that up is because it says meditation with the Native American elders. And I just want to let my non-native relatives, my non-indigenous relatives know that this comes from the elders, but it applies to everybody. In fact, it applies to you. And so I'm grateful to be able to say that and to be able to be a part of that and to have that in my own heart. So I'll just say that about that. And then I also want to always say that the reading that I'm going to do, I have no idea what it says. I just don't have any idea. And that was the goal. The goal is to do these videos like that, and there won't be any editing either. What you see is what you get, and what you see is how it went. So I won't edit, and I want that to be like that is because I want to be able to be the type of person and the type of send that type of message is that life isn't supposed to be edited. It's not supposed to be sugar-coated. It's not supposed to be, it's supposed to be like that. It's supposed to be the way that it is. And it isn't meant to always be pretty. It isn't meant to always go from 1, 2, 3, 4, A, B, C, D. It's not always going to be structured like that. It's what appears. And I use that term structured without being able to think of another word. So there is a system there. A system. So what appears to be oftentimes out of place or chaotic or out of balance is a part of that life system, is a part of that life cycle. Just like when there's a nice day and everybody's enjoying it, the kids are out playing, we're able to then go for a walk. We typically feel very grateful for that day because we're able to do those type of things. But then the storm comes along and it just sort of brings us inside. The kids can't go out and play, and we typically look at that and we consider that a bad day. And so that goes against natural law and in harmony thinking to view a storm as that, because everything has a purpose. We all have a purpose, and certainly storms do as well. Now, naturally, of course, that's not to say that I always, obviously that somebody should get hurt. But certainly I was just kind of trying to sort of exemplify my thoughts behind that. So I'm just going to say that. And also, if you're watching this from YouTube, I just ask that you like and share. And please feel free to comment if you want, because when I do these readings, I have no idea what it's going to say. The only preparation that I do is I do offer, I do make an offering of prayer to creation, the grandmas and grandpas, God, however you want to say it, Wakantaka. I always say it kind of fast, so you, I always say Wakantika. So Wakantanka, Tunkashala, however it is that you would like to be able to understand what I mean. But all that meaning, all that language goes into this. And the thing is that I don't want to exclude anybody, and I want to have a mindset of all inclusive. So that's the only preparation that I do. And so now if you watched me on here before, you've probably heard me say that a lot of times. But that type of language is the acknowledgement. That type of language is the preparation. And so I'll go ahead. I'm gonna double smudge today. I just want to keep in mind that a lot of people are going through a hard time. We're coming up on a holiday that is observed by a lot of people. It's not necessarily, I don't choose to observe it the way that most people do. But when when people are starting to pray more, when people are starting to give each other more and gather and to acknowledge each other as relatives, I will definitely feel grateful to have that happening, and then to be a part of that, because it kind of fills the air. It is good medicine, and hopefully during these difficult times and troubling times that we all go through and people are going through, that it is going to be one of less materialism and more of a way to reach out to each other. And so I'm grateful that I'll have that opportunity to do that. And so in a way, we celebrate these type of things every day. Okay, so here's today's reading for December 23rd. It's not the package and the wrapping which counts, but what is inside, underneath the clothes and the skin. Our eyes and ears gather information that is fed to the mind, and we tend to form judgments, opinions, and assumptions on what our perception is. We might see someone act a certain way, then label that person forever, not at all concentrating on what is inside the person. It matters not our height, our size, our facial features, or our gender. What matters is our thoughts. Good thoughts overcome all obstacles. And then there's a brief prayer at the bottom. It says, Great Spirit, let my inside contain your qualities. Okay, so I just feel like I did do a video about that. So I don't want to sort of repeat myself, but certainly that is something that for me I need to be reminded of every single day, because as I go out into my day, I'm going to go out into the world that there are things that have happened, and that there are belief systems, and there are systems, word systems, belief system, value systems, social systems, that have created kind of like a dialogue. They have created a talk within the two-legged, within the human being, that is more loudly spoken in such a way that it is typically what we hear wherever we go, the organizations and our families, even the stores, even everybody, because we're all relating to each other. We're all interacting with each other, and so we're all connected with each other. And there are things that connect us with each other that are part of the unseen world, and that are part of the seen world. And I sometimes like to remind myself that these are kind of like laws. They are kind of like rules. This is the way that it has to be so that I can succeed in my life, so that I can succeed in this society. And one of them kind of is something that is preventing us from really understanding more and learning about ourselves, and one that sort of cuts us off from spiritual ways. One that has really led to people fighting, killing each other, and not getting to know each other as relatives. And so it takes away from the spiritual value of what in Lakota and Dakota is we refer to as Mitakuye Oyasi. We are all related, we are all connected. And they talk about it in this book, and I think that it's really important that it's brought up on a regular basis. So it's brought up, in this circle, in a good way, in a safe way. It needs to be discussed. These discussions need to be had because in this life, we're really taught that we need to always be on the go. We don't have time. And so these are such important things, is that we have to make time in our lives for this. And the only way that I'll ever know the value of these type of teachings is to take time out for them and to make them a priority. And so that is what I'm talking about, is that what we usually do is that we feel as though that what people recognize with each other is the outside, is what is shown on the outside. Now, if you look at me and you look at my videos, you'll see the same paintings, because I sit in the same place. You'll see the same earphones, you'll see the same glasses, you see the same tattoo, you'll see the same even black shirts, which, by the way, I own multiple black shirts. 2 of them are the exact same one. So it might look like I'm wearing the same shirt over and over again, but I'm not. Just letting you know. And so typically we go about our day with the same routine. We do the same thing, and that's good because we do have to have a routine to be successful in this life. But every moment that we live is very sacred. Our lives are sacred. Even the words that we choose to use are sacred because we have come from the spirit world. We have come from the unseen world. And we came here to represent the unseen world and to grow in this seen world, so that as we grow, that we'll start to learn more, we'll experience more, and this will become a part of the unseen world. So the unseen world is trying to work with us. And since the unseen world and the seen world, and people call them the spirit world, people have a lot of different religious terms for things that you can't see, but they typically view those things they use words to make them seem as though that they're a long ways away. to make them seem as though if you can't see it, then it doesn't exist. Or even they use the language that we're taught, well, when my time is up and then I'll go there. Then that'll be a part of my life and I'll leave this life here. Which there's so much strong evidence to the fact that they are interconnected, that they are connected. Now, granted, I don't know so much as to be able to describe everything because there are some things that are obviously not supposed to be known until you get there. Just like me, I don't know what I'm going to know like a year from now, but I do know when I look back at this time, I'll be able to make those connections about what was going on in my life today and why it was going on. I'll be able to better understand. But there are things that we do know as far as the unseen world and the seen world that are a part of our daily life. And so typically what I like to do is I like to find different ways to use my English, to use the language that is going to be that I'm going to be known for. Words are important, relatives, because one word can break somebody's heart, or one word can help heal a person. One word can change somebody's life. One word can be very, very powerful. And I know this to be true because most of the words that we speak are influenced by the people around us. And so that just goes to show the words that I choose to use today can become a part of not only my life, but also my family's life, from generations to generations to generations. We know that by storytelling. We know that by the values that are interpreted through that word system. And so they are very, very important. Because sometimes they can really sort of keep us sort of in our comfort zone. And of course, who doesn't want to be in their comfort zone? Being comfortable is really important. We need to be around people that we're comfortable with so we can trust them and they can trust us, and we can have that natural part of being alive, to be able to feel as though we're part of a family, feel as though that people care for us and we care for them, and that is sacred too. And so that's how important these type of words, and now I'm going into beliefs because those are directly related. And so for myself, when I grew up, I was a part of a belief system, much of which was very harmful. And I knew it at the time, but I was so young that I didn't really understand how harmful that it was playing a part in my life. My spirit knew it because it was affecting my spirit in such a way that I was walking around with a broken heart at all times. So it really, and those type of things can really prevent Tioshpahes, family members, from experiencing such a sacred connection. And so the words and the belief systems can have long-term, intergenerational, generational, over a lengthy period of time, impacts to the negative and to the positive. And so that's why readings like this are so important, because for me, they really have helped me change my life around. Just not only the life that you see as a human being that you're looking at, but also more deeper into what you see, but more deeply into the person that I am. and the person that has become, and also the person that I will be. And so those are really important, because it really gives us hope. It really teaches us that no matter how bad or how rough things can be, that what we share with each other will really make a difference. And when you grow up in a belief system that sort of limits that experience, for me, I kind of knew that there was more out there in the world, and I knew that what I was experiencing was very negative, but sometimes life is in such a way that there isn't that balance between negative and positive. The negative certainly outweighs the positive in my young mind, in my young spirit, and in my young heart. And that really leads to a lot of despair, depression, isolation, sadness. And when that happens, it can become normalized. So being unhappy and being depressed, and feeling hopeless can feel normalized. It becomes a part of my life. It becomes normal for me. And the thing about that is, when that happens, it's my own survival mode acclimating, so I don't always have to be like in a fight or flight situation. Like, I actually become used to that. In fact, it is my body's response to me to sort of try to bring me in balance. So I'm not always crying. I'm not always yelling. I'm not always ready to fight. On the outside. But on the inside, that is exactly continuing to happen. And the consequence of that is that I start to become a part of that unnatural world that only as human beings that we continue to do. We do that to ourselves. The human being, I've heard many people say that the human being has all this intellect, has all this, we've really put ourselves, like above everything, as if we're more important. And unfortunately, we've even done that with ourselves. And so if somebody is more important, that typically means that somebody has to be less important. So that language for me comes from that feeling of always having to look up, always having to look over my shoulder, always having to plan when the next, when it is going to be where I'm going to have to run, I'm going to have to hide, I'm going to have to fight, I'm going to have to turn my ears off so I don't have to listen to what I'm being told. What am I going to be forced to do now? What situation is coming next where I am going to continue to be isolated? And the consequence of that is that all these experiences that are a part of life are an unnatural way of being within that interconnectedness system. And what it does, it adds up to a belief system, and one that it's bad for me to be me. Now, I don't want that. And so I'll do everything to resist that. I'll do everything that I can to change that. And so that's why I went down the road that I went to, which led to even a more cycle of self-destruction, is because the only language that I knew how to use was that self-harm language, was that harmful language, and that inability to relax, to be at ease, to feel safe, to trust other people, to be able to have an honest conversation, to be able to honor each other's emotions, to be able to feel honored that I am alive as a sacred human being, Wakayesha, sacred little ones. And so since that was gone and was I didn't know that that was the way that it was, or shall I say that I knew that that's the way that it was, but I also knew that that was missing from my life, in that it led to the exact opposite of how the sacred world, the unseen world, the unseen laws, the unseen way of life, which is connected into this way of life, it violated those values. And so what I learned was how to normalize that was normal for me. And the consequence of that was that I would develop later into a person, into an adult even, who was incapable. And it wasn't a matter, people always talk about choice, okay? People do talk about choices. Now, granted, I did make a lot of choices that got me into a lot of trouble. It seems as though I was making a choice, and that is, I think, misunderstood. And so basically, if you come from a place like that, it becomes so ingrained in my mind and in my body. What happens is, if there's a situation where where there is safety, where there is love, where there is encouragement, things that I'm used to not being there, I perceive those things as a threat. And in other words, the whole system not only becomes out of balance, but it becomes backwards. I only feel comfortable in the uncomfortable. I only feel comfortable when I am in a heightened state of survival. I only feel comfortable when I'm feeling like I need to prepare to fight or flight. I only feel comfortable when I'm in a state of, and that's why so many people develop those kind of symptoms later on in their life, where they're not capable, they have a hard time with relationships, with trusting people. They have a hard time believing people when they try to encourage. And so it can really flip itself upside down. And unfortunately, it's not easy to I will use the word heal from that. It's not easy to get out of that. It's not easy to escape that. And because for the most part, since we're not taught the high value of honesty, we start to really wonder, and we start to really stretch and conform those terms and those words and those values to meet the rules of where the system are that we are at. I'll only be honest if it serves me. I will be honest only unless it keeps me out of trouble. But if I mess up, then I'm not going to be honest because I'm afraid. Now I have to always sort of walk around with the illusion that I don't make mistakes, that it becomes a way of life. And what it does is it really keeps us from living. There's a lot of new words that I like that come out that gain popularity, and one of them is this word called authentically. It really keeps us from living life authentically, like for real, what is life? And so for myself, there were heavy consequences to that, because those were the type of thought systems. And now I'm going to go into words. Those were the thought systems and the belief systems that many of us grow up into, and they become normalized. And so quite naturally what happens is we tend to gravitate, we tend to sort of make friends, because that is within our comfort zone. We get into relationships with other people that are like that too. And so what does that do? Then when we're together, we then have children, we have families, and that type of beliefs and that type of way of life gets passed on to the next generation. And so that's how come it can be so harmful. Is that I don't want my children to be the way that I was raised. I don't want that, and I'll tell them that. But yet it will still be, if something happened to me or to my family, I'm carrying that around within myself. That becomes a part of my experience. And it's supposed to be like that, because if you think about it, every other way that when we speak in regards to DNA, when we speak in regards to actually passing down, material items, like I might pass this feather down to somebody else, my energy is going to be they're going to know that this eagle feather was a part of my life. They're going to know that this was something that was very important for me, and my energy is going to be in that. And that works in both, because life is meant to be in balance. It is meant to be both positive, and it's meant to be both positive and negative. So the positive traits are going to be passed on, but also the negative traits are going to be passed on. And we know that by, and there's been, what do you call those things, studies done, example after example after example. One of the examples was that you can take like a set of twins who never knew each other. They did do these type of studies, relatives. So I don't know, I can't quote you, but I do know that those studies type exist, is that they have a set of twins that have never known each other, were adopted out, never knew their parents, never knew where they came from, didn't even know each other existed, had acclimated themselves to a new family, to a new teoshpaye, to a new parenting style, to a new community, to a whole new way of life that had their own generational way of life from, so they crossed into another generation, but they took the tendencies from a life way where they originated from with them. And what happened was there was something within inside of them that knew that they were different, that there was a wisdom within them, there was an experience within them that knew that was beyond kind of the understanding of human nature at the time. And good because human nature has that ability to evolve. That human nature has that ability to change. That human nature has that ability to break each other down. That human nature has that ability to build each other up. But if we don't know what we're breaking down and we don't know what we're building up from which that is rooted within Grandmother Earth, then it sort of grows kind of differently, and that lends itself to my example of like twins being raised completely different, but taking on the life way of the family that they were adopted from. So even though they only knew one family, they took on the life way because they looked the part, they looked different. They were still connected. And I hope you can hear me because my deal is starting to, it always messes with me, let's just put it that way. And so there are studies that show that there is an interconnectedness among those twins. They spoke the same way. They chose like similar type things that they do for a living. They dressed the same. They were interested in the same type of hobbies. Even though they had never known each other and had grown far apart, they were still very much alike. And that just demonstrates the strength of the influence of that interconnectedness of the unseen world, whether it be our grandmas and grandpas that came before us, or just the ancestors, but also in our indigenous way, in our Native American way, the influence of Grandmother Earth, of the four directions, of our respect of all the animal nations, our deep respect and interconnectedness, because we do have that interconnectedness, whether we want to or not, whether we believe that or not, science has proven that. And it will continue to do that. It will continue to prove those types of things. And so I'll get back to the reading. I'll tend to sort of I sort of tend to get off track. And so I do want to bring that into sort of like a positive thing, is that now we can get to a point in our lives where we start to feel like there's something more. There's something more. I can't figure it out. I don't know. I'm so busy. I have to make a living. I have to provide. And these are all good things. I got my shows. I got my priorities that I have to do in life. And of course, that is a good way to live, because there are many people out there that can't even eat. Many children, many elders, many people are unable to have a meal today. And that's their normal. And so, we're a very spoiled society, in the fact that nobody's really starving here where we're at. Nobody goes hungry because there's so many resources out there, and we're lucky, and I'm thankful for that. So please don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that nobody is starving. I'm not saying that, because I know there are people out there that are going hungry, okay? But you'll notice that it's kind of a cycle. You'll notice that if you go to these organizations that feed these people, these relatives, These hard-working people give, they work hard so that they can make a difference and that people don't have to go hungry. But what you'll notice typically is and if you've ever worked, and I've worked in organizations pretty much all my life like that, relatives. Not to say that I know everything, okay? Because I'm not going to be the type of person that says, this is the way it is, this is the way it always was. Today I'm going to learn a lot about life, whereas tomorrow I might look back and I'll say, I was wrong in that situation. You know what I mean? And so what you'll see typically in these organizations that feed people is you see the same people over and over again. You'll see the same people within the prison system. Even the people that work there, you'll see generational working, but the people that are incarcerated, you'll see that. And I've seen that. And I've even experienced that, relatives. Is you'll see the same, you'll see family, generations of mother going to prison, daughter going to prison, auntie going to prison, mother going to the homeless shelter, to the food bank. And so we know that these things work in ways that we know that this is generationally, that there is something happening, and we choose to use terms in English that make it impossible for us to heal, for us to be healers, for us to make that difference. And number one, the system is set up. We are supposed to be focused on ourselves. And only during Christmas do we start to think about others. Well, in our indigenous Native American way, it's not so much about how much you own. It's more of a strength about how much you can give away. Now, today in giveaways, we call them giveaways. There's even songs that you sing to honor being able to give everything away give everything away. Back then, today they buy things, and that's okay. That's okay. They go out to Walmart, they buy a bunch of stuff, and they honor the people by giving things away. Like if my daughter graduated from college, I would honor her by giving things away. If I was to have, if there was another family member, if my wife, which I'm not married, but I'm just using that as an example, if my wife gave birth to a healthy baby, I would honor that by giving away things to the community. In today's world, it's kind of backwards, right? I'm not speaking against that, but I'm just telling you that there is a difference there. There's been a shift. There's been a difference. And many people have fallen in between the cracks. And that's what we call a cycle of harm, a cycle of suffering. How do you get out of that? You know what I mean? And it all comes down to our belief systems of the culture that we're living in. It all comes down to the word systems, to the belief systems, to the laws that typically leave out natural law. We've developed man-made laws that leave people out, that only raise up the people who, if you look at the cycles, you'll look at families, if you do your homework on that, you'll be able to find out. I won't take too much more time as far as saying that, but there is much more to this word starvation than what there is meant, right? There is much more. Okay, starvation means a lot more. In English terms even, it means so much. We typically, when we think of starvation, we see somebody that is skinny, that is dirty, is unkept, is reaching out, right? And so we reduce that person down because they lack the outside appearance, that meets the standard of what is the opposite of starvation is wealth, success, or however you want to put it, full. So that person doesn't meet that standard according to the human eye, according to the limitations that we have made a choice, right? You want to talk about choices. We've made a choice to limit what we see and what we experience. And we all know, I don't know about you, but I've been to a point where I was so hungry that I was sick. I've been to a point where I was so hungry that I actually had to go out and break the law to be fed. Okay? And I kind of got used to that. And so now let's change the word to starvation. Let's stretch that meaning, because there is more of a meaning to it. You can be starved not just for food, right? You can be starved. We know that. You can be starved for love. What is the impact of that? Think about that. You can be starved for interconnectedness, for experience. You can be starved, and so you can be a fat cat wearing a three-piece suit with $1 million in the bank and feel completely hopeless, completely missing of any type of depth, below skin deep, of honesty, of trust, any sort of lack of awareness of an interconnectedness with your ancestors. The inability to, you can lose your own inability or lose your ability and develop the inability to have compassion for others. And so what happens is the fat cats tend to they become addicts too. And they become addicts too, but their addiction looks a little bit different because they're dressed up, right? So they're meeting the approval. They can hide better. And that's what the structure is built on. That's what societal structure is built on. We don't have any leaders anymore. Whether we have them in our families, that's what we're working on. We're going back to what real leadership looks like. We're not waiting. We're not gonna wait. And somebody just says, how can we all help each other through these next 4 years? Is you just answered that question, Rebecca. Is we help each other. Is that's just the thing. And we realize that this system is that we cannot minimize this system, this balanced system. We have to start to, as individuals, analyze and assess how we are contributing. We have to have the guts. Your leaders don't have the guts. They don't have the guts. They don't have the courage. They lack the courage. What do we want in a leader? We want somebody who has courage, right? We want somebody who will think about the people first above himself. We want people who will give everything away before themselves. Because the strength is that is exemplification of what leadership is. I'm not starving because in the old ways, we exemplified leadership. We know that if I give everything away, if I give something back, the laws of the natural world, the laws, I know who you are. I was going to say your name. What you give back comes back to you 4 times over again. That's natural law. And so when we got our fat cats as our leaders, and that's who we're raising up, and that's who, almost like a God complex, what we're developing is layers. We've been socialized to look at everybody as layers. We've been socialized for that. And what you're starting to really see and recognize is that, I don't know if you've ever hung out with homeless people, or if you ever hung out with people that are addicts, or people who are, what you'll notice is that there's a brotherhood there. There's a value system there, okay? And granted, it is having a very harmful effect on our society, but it is only but a symptom of an underlying layers upon layers of how a system is out of balance. And you'll notice that with our fat cats, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to sound like I'm being abusive, but you'll notice that with our fat cats upstairs. And I've known a lot of fat cats relatives, okay? I've interacted with politicians, these so-called the ones who sit at the hierarchy only because we have placed them there. That's the only reason why it exists like that. I'm not saying that they need to be chopped down, but certainly the whole system needs to be assessed and reevaluated. And the only way that we can help each other through the next 4 years is as individuals be willing and courageous. It takes guts to make a self-assessment and a self-evaluation of where am I at on the medicine wheel of what it's like to be a human being. Where am I at physically? Where am I at emotionally? Where am I at mentally? Where am I at spiritually? Because a person that walks in balance, you notice the people who are in balance. There are times when you're in balance. Well, guess what? When you leave church, right? You're flying high, right? You are in balance spiritually. Well, when you go for a walk around the block, you feel good because movement is medicine. You are in balance physically. When you are able to have emotions after a good cry, something has left you off of your shoulders, you are in balance. Because that is even Mother Nature does that. It builds up its tears and then releases, right? And when you are in balance mentally, when we all know that mental health is on the increase, and that is a system of that. Now, I'm not blaming anybody, okay, relatives? This is very personal to me. If I were to blame anybody as an individual, that would go against natural law, so I don't dare do that. That's not a part of the language that I use, and that's definitely a part that hits home to me. And so I'm not going to do that. You will not hear me ever act that way or be that way. But we all typically know that the mental health has gotten on the rise. But our own understandings of what is mental health has also evolved too. And so we're getting more honest. We are going in the right direction. And so what we can do to help each other is, first, we have to take an honest appraisal of where we are at as individuals. And that's what many people cannot do. They cannot do that. They are incapable of doing that. And you look at the drug addict on the streets, they are incapable of doing that. And if you know the treatment process and you know what it's like to heal, you know that they lack that information. And so we need to bring that information to them. But it's not just how we bring that information to them, I mean, it's just not bringing that information to them. It's how we bring that information to them. Okay, how are we giving? If I were to give you a meal, right? If I were to give you a meal, if I did it with respect, in love, in patience, and not only that, with the respect, knowing that you could grow, that you were of value, that you had the ability to give back, that you were giving something back to me. There was an equal exchange. That is different than them being a line and going plop, yeah, thank you, hey, good to see you. You know, like empty words. And that's typically what you see. And that's not the people that work in those type of situations' fault. Okay, that again falls into the rush. But what you'll also see is the fat cats that we have risen up. We have risen them up. We have decided. We have done that. And so you ask, what do we do to help each other? Is we assess ourselves. We assess our families. We sit everybody down in a circle. We create a safe place. And we have honest discussion. And then we honor each other's feedback. We give each other, we don't interrupt them, we don't blame them, we don't get mad at them and hold that against them, and that's like a cycle of harm. And so we're going from individuals and how we speak to ourselves during a sacred time of change. We assess that, we evaluate that, and then we ask the natural world and the unnatural world to come together and to help make changes. But it's also a good idea to bring that in to help me see the changes that I need to make. Because remember, I'm a part of a system that is broken. It's broken. Okay? So if you're only asking yourself and you're a part of that system, you're basically asking that system to make decisions for my family. And I'm not going to do that because I don't trust it. I have a deep sense of spirit. I have to learn how to trust my own spirit. And I have to, as an indigenous person, I have this way of looking at all beings as equal. No matter what, as equal and as a family, as a nation. And that's why it's going to be Native people, it's going to be indigenous people, and this was prophesized, relatives. This was prophesized when everything started to shift and bad things started to happen to indigenous people. Our people were so well connected to the land and to this lifestyle system, and your lifestyle is definitely going to have to be a part of this too. How do you live? Okay? But this was a way of life for us. We knew what was going to be coming. We knew. And then we knew that society would get to this point. We knew this a long time ago. And so since our relatives knew that and had that vision, because they were connected, everything was in kinship, guess what? So do we. We too have that capability and vision. Yes, it's been reduced, it's been tucked away, it's been hidden, it's been bullied by a world of materialism, it's been bullied by harmful language and beliefs that now are a part of our own system and bodies, but we can start to heal, and that's what's happening. That is what's happening. You can change your belief system. Change your belief system. Change the words that you use. And not only that, bring in new words. Evaluate your belief system and assess that, but bring all of creation in to make that evaluation. Ask Creator, God, however you believe, to help me assess myself as an individual honestly. Now do that with your belief system. What do I believe? Where did that come from? How will that affect the next generation? Ask God, Creator, the grandmas and grandpas, all of creation, however it is that you believe, to make an honest self-appraisal, an honest assessment, an honest inventory of your spiritual life. Also do the same with your physical life. Also do the same with your emotional life, your mental life, and your social life. Who do I hang around? Things such as that. Oops. Okay, just got a message. Sorry about that. And I do have to wind this down. And so somebody did ask that question. They said, how do we help each other through these next 4 years? You just answered it. We help each other. But before I help, we have to know what we're helping each other out of, from. And that's why we need to understand what we're helping from. And I think we pretty much, many of us know that the leadership system is completely broken. And so now we have to go back and we have to reconstruct what it is to be a leader. Now, typically when we think of leader, we think of, no, I'm not a leader. I'm not a leader. Guess what? You are. You are a leader because, number one, you're growing and you're going to have a family. Your young ones are going to be looking at you, looking at what you do, looking at the words that you say. So develop a new word system. Your words are going to tell you who you are. People say, oh, words don't mean nothing. It all depends on action, and action is definitely a part of this. But the word system that you use are going to tell you who you are. We live in a society now that lies for the most part. You'll see it. You can pay a heavy consequence for being an honest person. And so what we need to do is we start to have to look at ourselves, self-assess. How am I being honest with myself? Where am I afraid? We have to make that honest self-appraisal, that honest self-assessment. And when our children see us doing that and living that way, guess what? You're going to provide a teepee, a home, to where the next generation is going to see that as a value too. Because you can have material things and be starved, completely starved, and not even know it. That's how powerful that system can be if we continue to feed it with the values that it only depends on how you look on the outside and how you behave. But you cannot lie to the spirit. You cannot lie. If I'm sitting here in a 3-piece suit and $1 million in the bank, I know that I'm starving for something. I know because my spirit is going to be telling me. And that's why we see equally so many people who seem perceivably to have it all when you get to know them. And I've done that, relatives. I've been a part of hundreds of talking circles. And what you find out is people are starved for that word, authenticity. They are just tore up inside. And so now we have to create talking circles within ourselves as individuals. We have to create talking circles, healing ways. We have to prioritize what is healing. Just like we've been very successful at changing the stigma of what is mental health. Back when I was younger, when you thought of mental health, you thought of a straitjacket and people carrying you away and you screaming and everybody's embarrassed. People are crying. that vision has changed. Now mental health is widely accepted because we have decided as a collective, as a society, and relatives, a lot of that is because there's money in it. Okay, there's money in it. All right, now that is one of the main motivators. All right, but I won't speak to that. Okay, there's a lot of reasons for things, but when we prioritize and we construct, we can be the main constructors of what we're building. But what we build cannot be shallow and just appear to be okay, because you can have a good home and there can be all kinds of abuse, all kinds of neglect, all kinds of starvation of the spirit, emotionally, all kinds of starvation within that home. And these things of the natural world go far below and far above. They are rooted. They teach us to be rooted in principles, values that are in balance with natural law. And usually when we think in terms of rooted, right, we think of in the ground, right? We think of in the ground. But guess what? Wherever we go, that root system is within us. And we get to decide when we become more informed, our decision-making capabilities, our options expand. This society is meant and designed to keep us from expanding. And so what we come to find out, if you look, when we think of a tree, we think in terms of roots, right? Go down. Well, guess what? The tree also goes out. And it's the same thing. What is down below is above. There's oxygen in the dirt, right? There's nutrients in the dirt. But there's also oxygen in the air. Why? Does it look differently? Like, why is there flowering up above? In this root system up above? It's because that's where we share the same breath. That's where we share everything with each other. So, that goes right back. We're supposed to share everything on the outside. That's where the change has to happen. That's where we're going to help each other. That is the perfect example of living outside of skin deep. That is the perfect example of the value of that interconnectedness system that we are a part of, because our spirits will know, even if I got $1 million in the bank, my spirit will know if I am suffering. And so, yeah, there's a lot more conversation that can be had for that. And I'm really thankful. And I just want, I know I get relatives. I know I kind of start yelling, and man. So I just get really passionate about it. And so I just want to encourage you to, to feel free to comment, to feel free to share. Reach out to me. I always give out my phone number. I always give out my contact information when I'm doing talking circles. I always make sure I give out my contact information, because we need to expand these circles. We need to expand this interconnectedness, all right? This awareness. The interconnectedness is already there. It's already goes out into the universe, but we need to become aware of that and empower that within ourselves. Thank you. And so if you're watching from YouTube, please like and share so we can get word out. Let's expand this family. Let's expand this healing. Let's expand this awareness. Let's be together in that way. Okay? I'm going to get ready to go. I don't even know how long I've been on, but I do have to run to the store. What's up, bro? What's up, Stace? Love you, bro. I'm just winding it down because I got to run a few errands, but then I have to come back and we're going to have a good talking circle. We're going to have a good coming together time. And so I do have to run those errands. Sorry about that. Okay, so if you're watching from YouTube, please support the channel. I just got started on YouTube. I'm very patient. I've been doing these videos for, I think, year 8 now. And so I'll keep on doing them. So, you know what? Anyways, I will talk to you later, okay? Be blessed today. You are a blessing to somebody out there. And if you don't feel that way, well, creation loves you. All right, I will talk to you later. If I can, whoops. All right, I did something that I don't know what I did.